Welcome to The Pulse, a podcast for members and friends of the Chartered Institute of Ergonomics and Human Factors, to see what is going on around the Institute and gain some insights into the people, processes, meetings and activities that the CIHF delivers. And welcome to this episode of Pulse, the second episode from the Chartered Institute of Ergonomics and Human Factors. My name is Barry Kirby and I'm the current president of the Institute, and I'm here with the CEO, Ben Peachey. Hi Ben, how's your week going this week?
Yeah, it's going really well, thanks, Barry. I obviously did a podcast. I'm trying to remember the name. It's behind your shoulder, the 1202 Human Factors podcast. So I was honoured to record that with you earlier this week. So and yeah, actually sort of listened back to make sure I did okay, and so I was pretty pleased with it. So yeah, I hope people get a chance to listen to that. And again, thank you so much for inviting me on. It was a real privilege.
No worries. You're going from like podcast zero through to doing all of them. So this is clearly just setting you up to a whole train of other people asking you onto podcasts. So that's be prepared.
Exactly. And as I said to you, it sort of it takes me back to my BBC days, because I did as I say, it was before they were called podcasts, but used to sort of I was on the sort of the behind for that one, but it was producing podcasts in their very early days. So yeah, so it's really good to be doing them again.
So you were doing them before they were cool.
Exactly. Yeah, that's typical of me.
So to get onto this episode, firstly, thank you to everybody who's commented and emailed and messaged us about the first episode. I like to say most of it was complimentary as well, which was really good, except for me getting my camera angles wrong and a couple of other technical issues. But on the whole, we've had some really good feedback and loads of questions about and ideas about what we can cover on future episodes. So please do keep that going. As we said last time, really the focus about this is a brief insight into things that have happened over the past couple of weeks and what's going to come up in the next couple of weeks, to really give you, the members of the CIHF, an insight into behind the scenes, the things that goes on that happen maybe you're not aware of, or that happens on your behalf. The format is quite fluid, and really we're going to trial different approaches. So this week, we're going to go for a slightly shorter approach, and the last week was a really good introduction to give you a good insight into what was going on. This time, we're going to keep it fairly short and sharp. And again, I'd love your feedback. Do you prefer it longer or shorter? Well, but give us your feedback into what do you want? How do you like this information delivered? On the back of last week's episode as well, we've had a brief request from the Defence Sector Group, who we'll hear from in slightly more detail in the future episode, but I really want to get the request out there. The Defence Sector Group is talking about developing a defence learning pathway to join the suite of learning pathways that the CIHF is already developing. If you'd be interested in learning more about it, supporting it as a company, or basically being considered as like a candidate, you're somebody who would maybe benefit from the learning that would deliver, then get in touch with us and let us know, and we'll pass them numbers on and pass the information on, because they're really exploring this at the moment to see whether it would be something that would be viable and useful to the community. Hopefully in one of the future episodes we'll have one of the chairs of the Defence Sector Group come along and talk to us about it in more detail, but we wanted to get that out there right now to get your interest and get your feedback. So as we said, we're talking about what's going on and what's been happening. So let's look at what's been happening and reflecting on the past couple of weeks. The awards window has closed. So anybody who was wanting to put in awards nominations have now done so. And the Honours Committee is hard at work reviewing all the nominations that have been submitted. And for those of you that are not aware, the Honours Committee is currently chaired by the past president, Alex Steadman, and is made up of myself as president and a number of the past presidents prior to Alex. So there is a whole committee there that we split ourselves up into or rather we get told which ones we're going to look at, and we're very well organized. We split ourselves up into pairs and really go through some of the different categories. And we review the awards independently, and then come together and come up, discuss them between us, arbitrate between us, and come up with the winners. In past years, historically, kind of pre-pandemic, the awards night was at conference. It was the same night as the annual dinner, and that really sort of culminated that annual dinner as a bit of an event. But pretty much since pandemic moved us online, it went online as an event, and since then we've kept it as a separate online event. And so it'll be interesting to see how this evolves again in the future. But it's interesting to see how it has evolved to date. So I'm quite looking forward to being part of that event and seeing you know all we're seeing at the moment, all the nominations are coming, but seeing the winners and how they're presented. So Ben, what else has been going on whilst we've been doing reviewing nominations for the awards?
Sure. So yeah, it's been again a sort of a busy and exciting couple of weeks. Actually, some good things have happened. I wanted to start talking briefly about the conference again. So one thing we've done is had a look at the sort of the stats from the conference as a team. So we had a team meeting earlier this week, and it's really good to sort of see. We had sort of 319 total attendees. That 117 next to it is people who just purely went to the 2 days of the conference, but obviously on the main conference days we had event attendees who were at the careers day and at the masterclasses earlier in the week as well. And as you can see there, we had sort of 69 sort of presentations and sessions that were run, and it was really good. I didn't want to say sort of the numbers. We actually, last year's conference, we had a slight deficit on it. One of our aims with the conference is to make it as cost effective as possible, because our aim is to have as many members and others come along. But we do aim to have a little bit of a sort of what we call a surplus at the end, mainly to make sure we don't have a deficit. But this year, as you see, we actually made a surplus of £30,000. I guess I'm a little sad to report that doesn't go into the sort of the CEO bonus pack, but that money is going to be reinvested back into the work that we do. So that's good news too. So hopefully you'll see the benefit of those monies in the other activities that we do.
So you're making a hint there that there's no presidential car coming then?
Yeah, well, I'm afraid not, but I may work on that for my arrival at conference next year. And then the other thing I want to say, so the qualitative side, and it was really interesting seeing what the main reasons people come, and I guess unsurprisingly, sort of networking sort of being the top thing. But either people are presenting, they saw things on the program they wanted to come along and see. Also, it's for CPD. I think it's really true for those of you who want to sort of and need to demonstrate your CPD. This is a great opportunity to go to a number of sessions that can contribute to your CPD each year. And then finally, just wanted to say, the word cloud there, it was for us as a team, it was just great to see these words of motivation. And Tina, because Tina runs the conference, what's interesting, last year's word cloud was more words around people were happy or content, but this year there were more words about being motivated, inspired, which I think was really great for us to see, because it almost feels that we did a better job of making people think, what can they take from this conference and build on. And the other thing we're working on is we've started planning for next year's conference as well. So I just thought it'd be useful to share that. And again, thanks to everyone who completed the survey. It really helps us understand what people get out of it. And as we said in the last edition, it was a really positive event, and the stats sort of show that. In terms of other things, so I think we've spoken about the degree apprenticeship. So again, kudos to the group there under the leadership of Chris Vance, one of our members. Got the funding application for that was approved by the Department for Education. What that means now is that the universities know how much they can charge for the apprenticeships, and they can now go ahead and build out the sort of the integrated master's program. So we've actually got a meeting next week of that group. So hopefully, I'm sure we'll learn from. So it's Coventry, Cranfield, and Loughborough, who are in the first wave looking to offer the integrated master's program. So we'll be hearing from them on their next steps. The other thing I wanted to give a shout out for is so early this week, we sent out a survey to employers who want to send their employees into the apprenticeship. And the reason for that survey is to almost find out how many people we think are going to do it, but also to find out what information companies need in order to make the decision. And that's a really crucial step. And actually, that's a rolling survey. So if anyone anyone who works for a company or an organization that is considering the degree apprenticeship, please let us know and you know, put a comment in you know, on LinkedIn or wherever you see the pulse. Let us know, and I can send that survey link to you so we can find out what you need to know in order to consider that. So that's exciting. Other things, there's been some good meetups. So the healthcare sector group met up yesterday. They had a talk by Joe Simmons from ErgoWorks about the new hospital program, and you know, I think it's a really important one for us because you know, I know there was, I think I read in the press briefly today about some controversies around the new hospital program and how many hospitals are actually being built or not. But the important thing is that, you know, as Joe was saying in the session, is it's really important to include human factors early on. And it was also a good reminder to me is that, you know, as we do the work that we do as an organization, looking outside to see what's going on and thinking, oh, there's an opportunity for us here. So it was great to have Joe Simmons on. It was great to have a good turnout for that event. And I think, you know, again, a challenge to those of you working, I guess, both in construction and the healthcare sector is going, as new hospitals get built or new wings of hospitals get built, how can we ensure that human factors has a voice, you know, a seat at the table? And then the other meetup was that I wanted to mention was the London and South East regional meetup. I actually sort of attended that one. That was last week, and and I think it was about 30 people there. So good turnout and really good sort of conversation going on. Suzanne Davis from EasyJet was talking about the just culture and how to implement it. So really interesting to hear about how she was rolling out the just culture in her company, but we also heard from others and what they were doing in their organizations as well. And there was a lot of good conversation about how to make that happen, you know, i.e., you know, getting leadership on board and being persistent. But again, if you don't go to the meetups, really encourage you to do it. It's a great way to hear how other people are tackling problems and also share what you're doing.
It's I mean, both of them topics there that you've highlighted actually both came up as conference papers as well. One of them, so around the planning of wards and things, there was a really interesting paper presented at conference, and also we had the panel on just culture to round off the conference as well. So they're clearly both something that is well within our remit to do so, but also it is just getting that the in
Absolutely.
to go and make it work, isn't it? So
yeah, absolutely. And again, as an institute, it's great for us to create those spaces for people to talk to each other about how they're addressing these kind of challenges. And again, you know, I guess anyone listening to this, if there are other topics you feel we should be presenting, or you want to present yourself, get in touch, because there's the opportunity to do that. And I think you'll find other people working on the same thing that you'll get a tremendous amount of value from it. So yeah, I really encourage that. And the other thing I wanted to mention is that, so I was up in Leicester on Friday last week for a meeting with a number of organisations in the occupational safety and health space. So there are representatives from IOSH, from NEBOSH, ROSPA, and a few others. And really, we were there talking about how we can work more closely together. You know, in some ways, we're sort of almost, you know, it's not our number one day job, occupational safety and health, in many ways, but we have lots of members who work in that space. And so for me, it's really important that we engage with those organisations, we support what they're doing, they can support us. One example of that's come out of that collaboration, so again, motivated by some of the other members, but we were able to put our name to it. There was a letter written earlier this year around the concerns of I guess, the sort of professionals in occupational safety and health about the risks for the laws in the sort of the retained EU law bill. And those of you who've been following that, it looks like the you know, the sort of the legislation on that's related to safety and health seems to be safe, certainly for the time being. So I think that's a sort of a positive outcome from the engagement, you know, say, of those groups, and it's really good for us to be at the table. And again, I do know I had one member reach out to me on this earlier this year saying we should be supporting things like that. So please, if you work in that space and there you have views on what we should be doing in that space, please let me know. And again, or if there's other topics where you feel the Institute should have a voice, please let us know, because either through our engagements with other organisations or us alone can think about how we do sort of be proactive and be a thought leader where we can.
Yes, absolutely. The more engagement, and it's certainly one of my themes for this year, is about how we think wider than we possibly currently do, and how we can really influence human factors into wider organizations and clearly take over the world. So that's been almost the retrospective on what's happening. We've got stuff coming up in the next couple of weeks. So last time I mentioned that we should have been reporting back on the 75th anniversary meeting. However, we're recording this on Wednesday, and that meeting is on Friday. So we'll report back on that next time. Quite exciting though. There's going to be a bunch of people getting together and really digging into that into detail. And then coming up in the next 2 weeks is 1st of June is the first meeting of the council, where all the trustees are coming along to discuss the current status of the Institute and what we're going to do in the next quarter. As I think I mentioned last time, I'm suitably nervous about this one. It's my first one officially chairing it. I've chaired a couple in the past, and so I'm waiting to see just how many buses I get thrown under and what sort of curveballs I get thrown. Ben, what can I expect at my first proper meeting?
So hopefully, Barry, so part of my job is to make the meeting run as smoothly as possible and put everything on a plate for you. But yeah, so part of my job in the next 10 days, and the team actually, is putting together the meeting, the package of documents. So last week, I sent around the draft agenda to our exec committee members, and I think tomorrow I will send the draft agenda around to the rest of the trustees, so they will have a chance to provide feedback and if there's any other topics. So things we're doing. So I think the most important thing is we're going to start the meeting with an onboarding session that is mainly for our new trustees, but actually we're going to do it for the whole for all of the trustees, because we haven't done an onboarding session before in this way. So over the last few months, I've attended a couple of trustee training sessions that third-party organisations have put on, so have given me some really good materials on, and a lot of it will be around sort of what the role of a trustee is. As many of you know, we are we're a charity, and there are rules and regulations that we should be following as a registered charity. We need to report to the Charity Commission on our work, and the trustees, it's their responsibility to ensure that we are working on our remit and not on other things. So that is a key responsibility that they have, for example. So yeah, so we'll be doing a sort of that training session to bring everyone up to speed. So I'm really looking forward to that. It's also good learning for me as well, to be honest. It's I'm very much looking forward to that. So that's a core thing, and I'm working on that. Actually, Byron Edwards, one of our trustees, and if you're listening to this, Byron, my apologies, I haven't come back to you yet, but Byron very kindly offered to help me putting that package together. So part of my job is to get that sort of the draft materials I'm working on over to Byron, so he can help me with that. Then other things we're saying, so you talked about the awards, so we're going to have a conversation about the role of the Honours Committee. So at the moment, the Honours Committee really is just focused on our own awards and the sort of the judging of those, but we've been having a conversation about how we can actually sort of broaden that remit. So there, for example, one of our responsibilities, the International Ergonomics Association has what they call IEA Fellows, and we can nominate people to be IEA Fellows, and I want the Honours Committee to have a bit more of a role in that and potentially be more proactive in that space. But also we were thinking that it would be really good to be looking outside to other awards where we think it would be in our interests for human factors people to put entries in, and it almost we thought that the committee could be a good way of almost sort of being a radar to go, what are the awards out there, and then encouraging our members going, have you thought about entering this award that might obviously give you as an individual kudos if you win it, but also would benefit the institute, but also the broader profession, and so yes, I'm excited about that conversation, because I think there'll be some good ideas around that. I'll be reporting back on things like the occupational safety and health meeting that I went to. So we do sort of report back on various things. We'll then be discussing the strategy refresh, and in particular the data strategy. So I talked a little bit actually in the 1202 podcast about this. So last week I had a meeting with a consultant who specializes in supporting member organizations on surveys, and I really want to develop what I call a data strategy for the organization. One strand of that is doing a regular member survey. A second strand of that is better really what I call insight analysis of our members, and that's twofold. The first bit is looking at how our members are using our products and services, how many people come to conference, how many people log into the website, how many people engage in the communities that we have, online communities or the meetup groups. And the reason you need to do that is, one is to sort of keep evolving those things. And to be honest, if there are products and services that you have that our members aren't using, let's drop them and put more effort on the ones that they are using, or trying new ones. So that's one part of it. But the second part of it, and this is something that we'll come back to as a bit of a call to action, is that I want us to know our members better. And what I mean by that is that there's a lot of conversation about the future of the profession, how we engage with undergraduate degrees and encourage people to become human factors professionals. But I feel that if we have a better understanding of what our current footprint is like. So one example of that is I want to ask every member to tell us what their undergraduate degree was, if you're willing to share it, and obviously I hope you are. And the purpose of that is going, well, how many of our members have come from a psychology background? How many are from a design background? How many from an engineering, and even the subdivisions of that? Are there particular universities that talk about human factors that help us grow and develop? So undergraduate degrees one, master's degrees is another, but also what sectors you've worked in, how many people are moving from sector to sector. I think so. Yeah. So that as you can see, there's sort of ideas, and I want to discuss that with the trustees and make that into a coherent package. And then the third element of data strategy is that what I call the perceptions piece, of external perceptions. Now, I think, to be honest, I want to talk about that now, but I don't think I'll start working on that till next year or even the year after. But it's that idea of going, right, well, what do senior leaders in the various sectors we work in, what do they think of human factors? How important is it to them? And I've got this sort of, I guess my instinct is that if we can start doing some kind of an external perception survey, we can then track over time whether we're changing those perceptions or not. And I think that would be really valuable. So I'm excited about that. So again, at this stage, I just want to air that as an idea, get some feedback. But as I say, my priority on the data front is really the internal data side first, and then we'll move on to external. So we'll be talking about that. We'll be talking about the 75th anniversary. So look, it's going to be a good full meeting, and I'm really looking forward to it.
So that's great. And then obviously the next edition of the Pulse, we'll be able to come back with some flavours about what's happened. Yeah. The day after that, we'll be having our first executive committee as well. So I get to launch 2 meetings as a first timer. But I know it's very cleverly you're doing that the morning after, which means that we can't have too many drinks the night before, because you'll expect me to actually be corpus mentis. So I'm really looking forward to that as well, because obviously we know the team, we know the executive come together, but that'll be the first formal time that we've sat down as an executive, and that'll be quite interesting. A lot of the things we'll be discussing will come out of the full trustee meeting, which will be really neat as well.
Yeah, we'll do. And then there's also the exec part of their role is to have a sort of a bit more insight and oversight of what goes on under the bonnet as such within the institute. So I think we mentioned we're in the process of getting ISO 9001 certification, and hopefully actually we have our meeting next week on the 23rd, where we have to report back on the 5 actions we needed to do. So I'm hoping to report that we have our ISO certificate. But behind that certification is a number of actions that we're doing, and I want to get the sort of input of the exec committee on that. So I'm I guess in some ways less important for the members, but for me, really important activity around how we make the organisation sort of more robust. And yeah, there's a few key things I want to use the exec as a sounding board for.
And I do love a good discussion around ISO 9001. It is one of my particular favourites. So yes, very much looking forward to that. So it's going to be a busy couple of weeks coming up. It'll be quite looking forward to come back here in a couple of weeks' time and reporting back.
Yes, I just realised as well, because the other thing I'm doing is I'm just before the council meeting, I'm taking a holiday as well, which I'm very much looking forward to as well. So having a break over part of half term. So yeah, we'll have to work out whether we do the next pulse before the council meeting or just after. But yeah.
We allow holidays for our staff. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I know. I know. Obviously, only me. The rest of the staff, yeah, aren't allowed away from the grindstone at all. But yeah, I get to go on lots of holidays.
Quite right too. So brilliant. Thanks very much for them updates, and I hope you've all found that useful. Thank you for taking the time to listen or watch, or however you're consuming this. Let us know your thoughts in the comments about what you'd like to see, who you'd like to hear from, and what insights you'd like to have about the Institute's activity. Are we telling you everything you want to know? Or is there more? Is there burning questions that you just didn't know how things happened and you'd like to know more? Let us know. Comment, email us, private message me, however you like to get in touch. If you've got any other questions about the Institute, about how different mechanisms work, what particular role involves, we are going to try and get different people on to talk about different roles in the future as we evolve things, because I'm fairly sure you're going to get sick of me talking at some point. And so we'll try and get them along to bring you different insights. But for now, Ben, if people want to contact you, and I promise to spell it right this time on the video, how would they get in touch with you?
So they can email me. It's b.peachey, so that's peach as in the fruit, then EY, especially for you, Barry, at ergonomics.org.uk, or via LinkedIn. Yeah, connect with me, send me messages. I'm active on there. So yeah, I'd love to hear from you.
And if you want to get in contact with me, then you can email me on president@ergonomics.org.uk, or via social media. I'm not exactly hard to find. Thank you all, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Thanks.